Good morning, everyone. This is Paul Fletcher, the CEO for Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area. I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. We're here to introduce the Blanco County Strategic Workforce Plan that we've been working on for so long. Back at the end of March, we did a rollout of the regional strategic workforce plan, and now we're coming back to each of our 9 counties to introduce the county specific plan, and in this case, it's for Blanco County. So we've asked some of our partners from Blanco County to join us this morning. Also asked our board chair, Frank Leonardis, he's with us this morning. Our Chief Operating Officer, Diane Tackett, is here with me and where I am this morning. And then our Chief Strategy Officer, Dr. Kara DiMattina Ryan, is joined us as well. We have our Chief Storyteller, Brian Hernandez. Several other board staff, our Chief Financial Officer, Janie Cole, Linda Williamson, Nellie Reyes have joined us. We have Carl Braun and Mike Crane. They are our workforce contractors, and they are faces you've probably seen there in Blanco County as they get out and meet with employers and work with job seekers to help them find jobs. We also have Sandy Anderson, our child care contractor. She's with us this morning as well. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. And then Brian will go ahead and start the presentation of our strategic workforce plan. This plan was envisioned as a way to analyze the resources specific to Blanco County, what the needs were for job seekers, what the needs were for employers, and how we could work to mitigate the gaps between those needs. So where we have employers that need people to work for them that have certain skills, and we have people that need jobs that and don't necessarily have the same skills the employers need, what can we do to bridge that gap and bring those groups together where the employers have a good talent supply chain for their business, and the employees have great jobs, self-sustaining wages, and are able to contribute to their communities. So we set 3 big goals for Blanco County, and we worked with people from Blanco County, Johnson City, and Blanco specifically to try to determine what those needs were. And no surprise, I think, to anyone on the call, one of the biggest issues that came up early on was the need for housing, calling it workforce housing that people with in jobs that pay decent wages can afford. So where do our school teachers, our nurses, our firefighters live, and how do we work to provide more of that type of housing that they can afford so that they can live where they work and be more a part of the community. Childcare is another big issue. Transportation, how do we get people back and forth to work? And then during the pandemic, we really saw how important broadband access was for people to be able to work remotely, for kids to do remote school. It was really exposed how important broadband is, and the fact that Texas does not currently have an internet plan like a lot of states do, but they are working on that statewide plan, and we hope to include Blanco County in any of those plans as we work to try to improve that throughout the county. Second goal is to enhance the employer-led and demand-driven workforce system. So we want to hear from employers about what they need, what kind of skills their employees will need, and then use that information to help educators provide the workforce system, the talent supply chain that those businesses need. And then finally, we want to create stronger career pathways so that as kids come out of school, as people move into the area, they're aware of what skills are in demand, and they can clearly see how to upgrade their skills in order to be a valuable component in that talent supply chain, and how they can advance in their career, give them a good visual of what that looks like both monetarily and career-wise, and then also how to find opportunities for those skill enhancements through different educators. So as I said, the plan was formed with input from a stakeholder survey that we did back in the summer. We held a specific workshop in July to talk about the different issues. And then we worked with different focus groups throughout the summer to really focus in on the big goals that we talked about and things we're going to try to work on during this 3-year plan. Some key findings from Blanco County. Blanco County has a fairly low poverty rate, one of the smallest adult populations, 25 and over, without a high school diploma. An aging population, a shortage of childcare, housing availability and affordability, lack of broadband and post-secondary training opportunities were highlighted as significant workforce issues in the county. Even before the pandemic, the county had one of the highest percentages of remote workers. Attracting more remote workers could be a promising opportunity as we move into the future. And then supporting small business and improving access to post-secondary and workforce training were some other opportunities that were identified there in Blanco County. Our priorities as we move into this plan, we want to support the launch of a Workforce Matters Coalition. So this will be a Blanco specific group that we have worked to form that will include business leaders, educators, government, elected officials, a good cross-section of the communities and community-based organizations to help kind of inform and direct the work that we do under this plan. This plan is really is geared for the workforce board to really set the direction for what we're going to do for the next 3 years. And we want this coalition from Blanco County to really hone in and help us focus on specifically what we need to do in Blanco County to help improve workforce. We'll strengthen and align partnerships with chambers of commerce and economic development organizations to engage employers more meaningfully in the workforce system so they tell us what their needs are, and then we can help them by providing a better honed talent supply for them to hire from. And then increase the awareness of high demand careers and opportunities connect with Blanco County employers. So whether kids are coming out of high school or some other kind of training program, we want them to be aware of where their career opportunities are and use those career opportunity information to inform their decisions about training they make post high school and where they want their career to be and how that fits with them in the local economy. So we did a SWOT analysis as part of this formation of this plan to identify the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I think you'll see most of the things that we've already talked about before in the strengths and the weaknesses, kind of identifying the potential opportunities and the potential challenges. So the opportunities are things that we can do, things that we can work on to I think, help improve workforce development in Blanco County. And then the threats are just some things that we'll need to be aware of as we move into this plan and take into account as we try to formulate solutions to some of these gaps that we have. So on goal 1, we want to collaborate on solutions for structural barriers. So we want to convene stakeholders in Blanco County to gauge interest in joining the Workforce Matters Coalition, which we've already done. And we have a pretty good list for Blanco County. We can go through that list. I'll let Kara do that here in a little bit. We continue to work with the Blanco County Community Resource Center to engage and grow its volunteer base to support the work of the Workforce Matters Coalition. We've been fortunate to partner with the Community Resource Center in their various locations for a very long time. And we appreciate the opportunity to work in their area. They provide a great resource in providing a location for a lot of different agencies to bring their resources to as needed and give them a place to meet with customers and a place where customers know they can go to find the help that they need. And then finally, we want to engage employers in the coalition so that they are specifically informing the work that we're doing and letting us know what their needs are and how we can better tailor the job seekers to fit the solution they need. In goal 2, we want to enhance the region's employer-led and demand-driven workforce system. We want to infuse industry input and engagement throughout the workforce system to strengthen feedback loops among the employers, education and training providers, and job seekers. You know, we've said it for a long time, when we get educators and employers to sit down at the same table and talk about what their needs are and what they can do to help each other, we get really good results. And we'd love to see this happen here in Blanco County, having those employers, those business leaders participate on that coalition with educators, with other groups in the community to help better inform and strengthen that partnership. Of course, we couldn't do this without participation of some key organizations like Chambers of Commerce in Johnson City, Blanco, and we've done a lot of work with the Hill Country Builders Association to help get connected to people in the skilled trades. And goal 2, I'm going to encourage partners to join this Workforce Matters Coalition. We've formed that coalition here. And we'll begin to work with Johnson City and Blanco ISD to engage employers in an activity such as a youth career fair, so students can see where their job opportunities might lie, and allow them to stay in the area and not necessarily have to leave after they graduate high school or obtain a post-secondary credential. We'll distribute Blanco County's workforce profile to economic and workforce development stakeholders, keep them informed of the state of the county's labor market and its highest demand occupations. I think it's critical that our educators understand where that labor market is and that they are working to provide talent for those businesses in those particular areas. Not saying they don't do that now. We just want to help be an information tool in that process to help better inform that. And then we developed a career ladder system that really kind of visualizes that career pathway that shows people from an entry-level position, the skills that are required for that entry-level position, and then how those same skills can translate into higher level employment, either within the industry they're currently in, or allows them to move to a different industry, utilizing the same skills with the addition of 1 or 2 additional skills. So it gives people an opportunity to see on paper where their career could go, and not just stay within the same type of industry, but be able to move around in different industries as conditions change. And then in goal 3, we talked a little bit about the career ladder system, but we want to set up some real pathways, self-sufficient employment and career advancement. We want to work with our ISDs to help them move kids along from school with a post-secondary credential, and then move into the world of work if that's their choice and where they want to go. We want to make sure they clearly understand what their career opportunities are and how they can, continue to reside in Blanco County and be a part of the community there. So one way to do that is to create these pathways to self-sufficient employment. So we want to partner with our chambers and employers to set up a scholarship fund that would provide financial support for students who enroll in training programs, to help them pay for that training so they can stay there in Blanco County and be an asset to the community. Strengthen and support the network of resources to support small business. There's a large list of sources there that can help do that, and we want to help engage those resources to be partners there in Blanco County. And then advocate for the establishment of a formal countywide economic development partnership or alliance that will be charged with promoting economic prosperity across Blanco County. Diane, you want to talk a little bit about our labor market characteristics?
Sure. So we have a comprehensive resource for labor market information through Rural Capital Headlight, which is on our website. And this is just an example of the labor force in across all of our counties. And it kind of shows where our population is and where the workers are. And it provides the analysis that is the base that we use related to specific workforce trends or issues. And it kind of helps inform the decisions that we make as we build this plan out. So as you can see, as you're looking in the counties compared to the US, there's been a significant change in the labor force from February to August 2020, where several counties, including Blanco County, have lost workers in their labor force, and we're seeing additional workers come through in other counties. So, you know, this really kind of helps inform the reason why we would like to focus on working with school districts and providing information to students as they're transitioning from high school into the world of work, so that we can continue to support individuals to stay in the county in which they live, and that we can create those employment opportunities for those folks. Just real quickly, when you look at this, you know, this is kind of a snapshot of the number of individuals that were unemployed in each county as of August of 2020. So to put this in perspective, the main effects of pandemic-related unemployment, we saw spiking in towards the end of March, and then April and May of 2020. But then we started to see it kind of cycle back down. We started to see return to work happening through July and August of 2020. So we saw the unemployment rate start to drop during those months, but this is still a good indication of how each of the counties fared representationally for their unemployment compared to their complete civilian workforce. And this is a good visual representation that shows how each of the counties in our 9-county area fared in regard to pandemic-related unemployment compared to the rest of the Austin MSA, compared to the state of Texas, and compared to the US as a nation. So specifically, Blanco County actually fared fairly well during the pandemic. Their unemployment rate as percentage of the total labor force was much smaller than what we've seen in some of the other counties, but that does not diminish the need for the work that we're doing in Blanco, and the need to have a strategic plan developed so that we can continue to support the community there. And again, this is kind of the flip side of the unemployment rate. This is the labor force participation rate. Again, it's a good visual representation to see how each of our 9 counties, including Blanco County, fares in comparison to the rest of the MSA, the state, and the nation. One of the things you notice is that Blanco has a significantly smaller labor force participation rate than some of the other counties listed. And it's slightly lower than the state of Texas. And some of this may have to do with the age of the community in Blanco County, as well as the employment opportunities that are currently available in the county versus opportunities in other counties. And then just real quickly, wanted to compare what the median hourly wages are, again, for each of the counties in our 9-county area compared to the MSA, the state, and the US. Relatively speaking, you know, Blanco County has a median hourly wage that is actually slightly higher than some of our other counties. And so that's kind of a feather in the cap for Blanco County, and something that we can work to continue to support. And finally, one of the things I think that we would be remiss if we did not look at is the poverty rate in each of the counties. And again, compared to the MSA, the state, and the nation. And again, you'll see that relatively speaking, Blanco County has a slightly lower poverty rate, but that does not diminish the number of people that kind of fall below the poverty line in Blanco County. And that shows that there's still significant work that we would like to do to improve that. So kind of switching gears a little bit, talking more about skill sets, this also shows educational attainment, again, comparison to the other areas that we've identified. And Blanco has a relatively comparable percentage of the population compared to the rest of our 9 counties without a high school diploma. And I think a question actually just popped up close to this that was asking about the labor force participation versus kind of retirement or the retirement community within each county. And so this is just a representation of that. Blanco County is a great place to live, and it's a great place to retire to. We want to make sure that we can support families as they're making those decisions. And then this is kind of one of the key findings that we wanted to hone into a little bit. So compared to all the rest of our counties, Blanco County has a higher than what would be anticipated percentage of remote workers. And so there's much more commuting into and out of the county as it relates to working. Well,
the Workforce Matters Coalition that we formed will be a network of organizations, kind of modeled it after a structure that came out of Bastrop County called Bastrop County Cares, which is a partnership of public, private, faith-based, and nonprofit organizations, institutions, and individuals. This coalition will work to address large shared challenges facing job seekers and employers, such as housing, childcare, transportation, and broadband within each county and across the region. That gets us to the end of our plan, and at this point, be happy to entertain questions about the plan, about how things will progress as we begin the implementation of the plan. Anything that might arise. I saw a couple of questions pop up in chat. I don't know if we answered that question about retirement fully, but we can certainly address it if we need to. I didn't see any other questions pop up in chat. So, question was asked: who are the current members of the Workforce Coalition? Kara, can you kind of run down that list?
Absolutely. So our Workforce Matters Coalition, and I'm going to also point at Dawn and Debbie Burkhardt. I don't know, Debbie, you are there. Okay, good. Both of these individuals were involved in helping us determine our first round of invitations to the coalition, and it is a cross section of education representatives, both higher education and elementary. Elementary. I'm thinking more ISDs. So that'll also look at your high school and regular track or formalized track education. We've invited employers, local leaders, elected officials, and a combination of nonprofits, and some of that being faith-based organizations, because we know that job seekers in general will also rely on their community supports to join these or to look for support as they kind of explore how to get out of poverty. So that is one of our, so that's some of our cross section. Does that help? And I know Dawn or Debbie, do you want to talk about any piece of how we kind of created that list?
This is Dawn. We went through people who might be interested or who may have connections within the county and a good idea of the types of solutions that we need in order to increase the skills that our students have, and also to increase the skills of adults that live in the county who may not have the skills needed to join the workforce or to switch from one job to the next. So I think we all three worked for types of people who could reach out to those company or the businesses and the schools and also individuals in the county to introduce them to the things that we're trying to do with this Workforce Matters Coalition. And we're hoping that if we have meetings like this, the ideas between all the different types of individuals will be more broad than just something the three of us could come up with. That's basically what we were trying to do, is to get a lot of different people's perspectives.
Debbie, did you want to add anything? Oh, there you are. Okay.
I think it's what Dawn says is true, that we're looking at other people. One of the things that's happened to me is this has broadened my perspective. While I was, if you know me, you know I'm really focused on housing and on training and on boosting younger families into our county. But the one thing that I didn't look at, and I've had now people talk to me about it, is childcare. I am absolutely shocked at how difficult it is not only to get childcare in rural areas, but if you're working in the service industry, it's even more painful. If you have to work weekends or you have to work nights, that sort of thing. So it's good that we have a lot of people involved in this that can give us these new ideas and better perspectives, because this is one of those areas where I just left blank on my page. And I think this is really good that we have so many people involved, and I think that they'll help Blanco County move forward.
And so another question popped up, and Diane, I don't know if you have the slides in front of you off the bat. They asked what we're using to determine the poverty rate in Blanco County, and I don't remember the data set that we're using offhand, and I can look it up and get it back to you, Dana. Or Diane I don't remember if it was listed in the slide right there.
I do not have it in front of me. I can get that information for you guys. I'm sure it's the either the American Community Survey, or maybe I'm betting that's probably the source for it.
I would imagine. Thank you. I couldn't remember that name. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to also just talk to you, Dawn and Debbie, just a little bit more, so we get a sense, so we can share some of what our thoughts were. And so being that the both of you were so heavily involved kind of in the beginning of this and helping us set up the coalition, what are your thoughts on the direction, and what do you think the benefits would be to Blanco? Do you have more thoughts on that at all?
Well, I think that it's going to help us sort of look at our workforce and look at those entering the workforce and trying to find ways to move them forward. One of the biggest issues, I think, is if you live in a remote area, what do I do now? Where do I go now? It's really challenging if you're a high school student in a remote area, because your assumption is the only way I'm going to make it is either go to college or move to a big city where I can make better money. And we need to show that Blanco County can provide this, and we have the opportunities. It's just telling people about it. That's where, you know, our high schools and our libraries and our business people and our government, truly the county and the city, the chamber, all of those can work with us in helping them move forward and know that Blanco County is a good place to live and work.
I think the information that we provide is going to be an eye-opener to a lot of people in the county. For example, we have, if I say this right, we've got the highest percentage of people who have high school diplomas. I get the percentage. A lot of people in this county, in Blanco County, have high school diplomas, and we have a pretty low unemployment rate. Whereas, you know, most people may think we have a high unemployment rate, but these are some good things that we can put out there to show, yes, Blanco County has a lot of good things to offer, and our workforce is educated, and we've got people who can do the jobs. But in order to have them stay here, we need to address affordable housing is the big issue for me. We don't have enough housing, and you mentioned earlier housing for teachers, firefighters, which right now all of our firefighters are volunteer firefighters, policemen, all those necessary workers find it difficult to get affordable housing. And then you add on top of that high school students that you want to stay here because we can provide them jobs with a decent salary, starting out $17 to $19 an hour. But $17 to $19 an hour, it's hard to pay $1,200 to $1,300 a month rent. So I think everything tends to go back to affordable housing. But on the good side, we can show we do have some things going on in the county that are worth putting effort into.
And Dana just posted that the HUD figures show Blanco County at the 50% and up rate for poverty rate. Did you want to?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just looking at that. I think part of that might be the difference between how poverty rate is calculated and how HUD calculates low income and very low income. So very low income families do not exceed 50% of the median family income for the area, whereas the poverty rate is a set percentage of income achieved regardless of what the median family income is in an area. So I think part of that might be the difference in how different federal agencies are defining the level of need based on kind of their funding and what their mission is to achieve.
And I think that's going to be a great point for us to kind of use to compare and talk about how numbers and what the population and demographics are within Blanco County as we move forward. Thank you for bringing that up, Dana. I think it's definitely worth us continuing to discuss. I see Arthur has his hand raised.
Yes, I just had a few questions. I just want to make sure I get an understanding of what's being, relayed here. So from what I'm understanding, there is a high senior 55 and over rate population rather. And if that's the population, my question was earlier was the retirement. How many of those are retired? Because if you get into the retired, level of those and you have a lower youth population, being that it's a rural area, what is the draw to bring more youth into, to that area and to try to, because, some people get settled in their ways and they're like, hey, we don't want all these youth running around. We don't, and I'm just trying to understand the concept of how does that, how are y'all working that issue of trying to bring that draw, to that area? Because like I said, a lot of seniors are settling down, and they're like, okay, I'm retired now. I'm not looking, that draws down the unemployment because they're not really looking for a job, and so things of that nature, there's a lot of dynamics in there, and I'm just trying to understand the concept of how that works.
That's an excellent point, Arthur. And I don't want to, we're not pretending to have the whole answer. And I welcome anyone else's response to this too, especially anyone from the county. I know from our perspective, we don't pretend to have the answer. Our answer right now is to create this coalition so that we can discuss it, because we know it's impacting our small businesses and the way they're able to attract employees into their business. And if you don't have that employee base, it's hard for those small businesses to operate and for you to create an environment for for the retirees. So there is a catch-22 there, and we're hoping to kind of talk about that more. And we hope we're able to create a community-led solution, because I will admit it's a tough nut to crack. So we'll kind of take it a day at a time. Sissy, I see your hand raised too.
Thank you.
Yes, and forgive me if this is redundant, because we had some walk-in people to the CRC and I needed to help them, so I might have missed this. But I feel like one of the things that would draw younger people in and would also be helpful to our retired group, which I hadn't at one point was a member of that, and now am gainfully employed by the CRC. But is to make people aware of not only the employers in our area, because I think there's a misconception that there's only PEC or the school districts, but what job opportunities are available in our county. I mean, we can work with the chambers for that. We can work with the newspapers for that. But the groundwork's going to have to be done, and then keep that flow of information current. So to me, that would be one of the things that this coalition should have as a focal point.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Anyone else? I don't want to keep talking if there's anyone else who has thoughts on this.
It's all, we can provide training, we can discuss housing, we can discuss childcare, but we have to make the area attractive to younger folks. I have 4 grandchildren in college, and all 4 of them have no plans of moving back to Blanco. Nothing that I say will make them come back. And I think it's providing some sort of an attractive environment where not only they want to work, but where they want to live. And that is a challenge if you're, but that's not something that I think we can do. I think that's something that is the chamber's job. I think that they have to provide those sort of fun, adventurous activities for young people where they want to live there. So that's really not our job and our role, but it is important that they have a place to live that they're attracted to.
Absolutely. And I agree with that sentiment. And one of the things, so this coalition is and I'm making maybe some overgeneralizations about the coalition and how it will operate, and we'll really discuss it as a group and kind of figure it out along the way, because that's how it's intended to work. But because we are such a mixed group, and the focus is really on helping us identify gaps as a whole with this group, once we identify those gaps, it'll help us to start creating task forces more directly aligned with the issues that we're experiencing. So if we do decide that it is about the characteristics maybe that could attract the younger population, maybe what that is we gather together the leaders who can really help us look at that specific issue and identify low-hanging fruit to look at, so that we can start building out that talent pipeline into those other small businesses in the region and help them build out new small businesses to make it a more attractive place to live.
This has been a pretty lively discussion, and I appreciate all the really good questions.
So I have a question.
Go ahead.
So talk of daycares, and I'm wondering, I'm so confused about this. It seems that there are fewer people that want to operate daycares. Is it because of the cost? Is it because of, it might be startup cost, it might be liability, it might be some issues like that. And I don't really understand. In the 70s and 80s, it was just, everybody open daycares, but I see fewer and fewer today. And I'm wondering what are the main issues with opening a daycare?
So Debbie, I think I could probably speak to that kind of at a high level, and we can dive into it a little bit more in future discussions. I think it's a couple of things. I mean, you talked about startup costs. That's definitely going to be one area. There is a high liability and risk of exposure. And there's also just such razor thin margins depending on the business model that the daycare or the early care and education center would identify as they open. And one of the factors that really builds into that has to do with where the families are living and where the families are working, in terms of where that family is willing to invest in that stable, high quality early care and education for their children. And so, you know, if a family is commuting, then they may be more likely to place their child at a center that's going to be closer to their place of business than it would be to their place of home, because if there's an emergency that happens, it would be easier to be able to, quicker and easier to get the child from a location close to you. But I think it really comes back to looking at what the median income is in the area, looking at what the income is for families with young children and what they can afford to pay. Because at the national level and then all the way down to the local levels, we're seeing the cost of high quality early care and education exceeds the ability of families to be able to take on that additional expense or burden. And so one of the things that, you know, going off on a tangent here, one of the things that I'm hoping that we can accomplish is looking at ways we could help to offset that for small businesses that are interesting in starting a facility or being able to expand. So, you know, we can look at small relative providers or family homes and try to provide that support so that they could increase some capacity to serve more children and be able to support more families. But it comes down to a long-term business stability issue in regard to the cost of care versus what families can afford to pay.
So I think we've done a really great job of talking about a lot of this. I know we could probably go into a lot more depth on each one of these pieces, and realistically, we're hoping that's what the coalition will do. So if you do have any thoughts and want to contact me directly about how we can move this forward, or if you want to be more participative in the next steps, please let me know. And if not, that's okay as well. We do have our coalition meeting scheduled, and we'll be talking about our next steps in that scenario and how we can move forward on a lot of these ideas. Paul, did you want to close us out?
Sure. I would. Our board chair, Franklin and Artist, is with us this morning. And if you wanted to say anything, I'd welcome his thoughts. If he didn't want to say anything, that's okay too. There he is.
Sorry. No, nothing specific. Thank you all for your participation in this and getting the initial meetings with Kara and our staff to get this plan put together. And more importantly, going forward, we certainly need your participation. You folks are the experts in your area that know and have there on the ground what's needed in Blanco County. And without your participation, we won't be able to accomplish the things we want to accomplish. So we look forward to working with all of you guys, everybody moving forward. Thank you.
Frank, I especially want to thank Frank and thank Debbie. They're our volunteer workforce board members that give a lot of their time to the things that we try to accomplish as a workforce board. And we wouldn't be able to do any of those things without our volunteer board. And so I want to say thank you to Debbie and to Frank for being here this morning, and to everyone else. I think this is important. I think this is going to help kind of create that win-win scenario where we have the best talent for our businesses and the best jobs for our people that live there as we work through this plan and work to bridge some of these gaps that we're seeing. So I want to thank everyone for their time this morning. These slides will be made available. Brian, can you send them out if people want them? We can just send it out to the list of everybody that joined this morning if you want the slides. And we look forward to that first coalition meeting and seeing what we can do there in Blanco County. Thank you, guys.